The first time my boss made the offer, we were standing at the
I
edge
could
of the
stay here
Pacific,
forever with
both
you.
of us barefoot, the sand still cool from the
Me
night
too.
before. It was late afternoon, that hour when the light softens and people start packing up their umbrellas. I remember thinking the ocean looked calm in a way that felt dishonest, like it was holding something back. My name is Lucas Dawson. I was born and raised in Santa Barbara. I grew up with salt in my hair and sand stuck between my toes. My father fished from a small boat north of town, and my mother worked long shifts at a diner that always smelled like coffee and sunscreen. I learned to swim before I learned to ride a bike. The ocean never felt like something to conquer. It felt like something to listen to. Now I work as a lifeguard on the main beach. It's steady work. Long days under the sun, kids laughing, tourists ignoring warning flags. Most of the time I feel invisible in a good way. The guy in the red trunks who keeps things from going wrong. That Saturday was crowded. Coolers everywhere. Music playing from too many directions at once. I was up in my tower when I heard a laugh that didn't blend into the noise. It carried. Confident. Certain. I looked down and saw Clare Reed. She was my boss. Head supervisor for our stretch of coast. 35. Tall. Athletic. The kind of woman who looked like she belonged wherever she stood. Her blonde hair was pulled back, and her eyes missed nothing. She wasn't unkind, but she didn't waste words. People respected her. Some feared her a little. She leaned against the base of my tower and looked up at me. "You look bored," she said. "No sharks," I told her. "Just people who think the ocean owes them something." She smiled at that, then turned her eyes toward the red buoy far out past the break. It rocked slowly, steady and patient. "I've seen you swim on your days off," she said. "You're better than most of the guys here." She didn't say it like praise. She said it like a fact. Then she looked back at me and said, "Race me." I laughed, mostly from surprise. "What?" "Out to the buoy and back," she said, "right now." I asked her why. She didn't answer right away. She just held my gaze, the ocean moving behind her. "If you win," she said, "I'll give you one night, off the clock." The words sat between us heavier than they should have been. She looked calm. I didn't feel calm at all. She was my boss. People were watching. The beach remembers everything. I climbed down from the tower anyway. She stretched like it was nothing. A few guards gathered, grinning. Someone blew a whistle. I stared at the buoy, felt the wind on my face, and said quietly, "If I win, I want more than that." She paused, just for a second. "Beat me first," she said. We ran into the water together, and when the cold hit my chest, I knew there was no turning back. The water was colder than it looked. It hit my chest like a warning, sharp and honest. Claire dove in clean and fast, her strokes smooth, practiced. She moved like someone who trusted the sea without question. I followed, forcing my breath to settle, letting my body fall into a rhythm it remembered better than my mind did. Out there, the beach noise faded. No laughter, no music, just water and breath and the pull of the tide. We stayed close, neither of us giving ground. Every wave lifted us, then dropped us again. My arms burned, but I didn't fight it. I let the ocean do part of the work, the way my father taught me when I was a kid. Halfway out, Claire turned her head just enough to look at me. "You keeping up?" she called. I nodded, saving my air. I hated how alive I felt, hated how much I liked it. The buoy came closer, red against blue. A small current rolled under us. I timed my kick, felt the water carry me forward, and reached. My hand hit the buoy just before hers. The difference was small, almost nothing, but it was enough. We both grabbed on, treading water, breathing hard. The cheers from shore sounded distant, like they belonged to someone else's life. Claire looked at me differently then, not playful, not testing. Something real slipped through. "Okay," she said quietly, "you earned it." We swam back together, slower this time. When our feet touched sand again, the crowd broke apart, already losing interest. The beach always moves on. That night, after my shift ended and my muscles finally stopped shaking, my phone buzzed. A message from Claire. "You won tomorrow, my place, 7. I stared at the screen longer than I should have. A second message followed. "If you want more, prove you mean it." The next evening, I sat in my truck outside her bungalow, the porch light glowing soft and steady. The sky was turning orange and the ocean air felt heavier somehow. I should have been home. Instead, I sat there, hands on the wheel, wondering how something that started as a race had already begun to feel like a line I couldn't step back over. I opened the door and listened to the waves, then finally walked up to the porch. She opened the door almost right away. Claire stood there without her uniform, without the whistle or the radio clipped to her waist. She wore a simple dress, her hair loose around her shoulders. She looked like someone who had set something heavy down, at least for the evening. "You're on time," she said. "I didn't want to give you a reason to regret this," I replied. That earned a small smile. She stepped aside and let me in. Her place was quiet and warm, lamps instead of overhead lights. The smell of grilled fish and herbs drifted through the room. Books lined the shelves, stacked in places like they had been picked up and set down 100 times. On one wall were old trophies and framed photos. Claire, younger, standing on podiums with medals around her neck. I hadn't expected that part of her life to feel so present. We ate at a small table near the kitchen. The food was simple and good. We talked about the beach, about rescues that still made us laugh, about the strange things people bring into the water. It felt easy. Too easy. Then she rested her elbow on the table and looked at me the way she had that day by the buoy. "You said you wanted more," she said. "I did." She studied me for a long moment. "Most people wouldn't." "That's the problem," I said. "I don't want something easy." Her eyes drifted toward the window. The porch light cast a pale glow against the glass. "I've spent years staying in control," she said finally. "When I got hurt, it felt like something was taken from me. Swimming was the one place I never doubted myself." I listened, didn't rush her. I told myself the challenge was harmless, she went on. A way to feel something without risking anything real. "And when you cramped," I said softly, "you were scared." She nodded once, "And you came back for me. I couldn't leave you out there." The room felt smaller then, quieter, like the ocean was holding its breath. "So what are you really asking for?" she said. I stood slowly. "Not a prize, not a secret. I want the mornings after, the days that don't feel exciting. I want the part that scares you." She didn't step away. Outside, the waves rolled in steady and patient, like they were waiting to see what we'd do next. Claire looked at me for a long moment, like she was weighing something fragile in her hands. Then her phone rang. The sound felt sharp in the quiet room, wrong somehow, like a knock on the door in the middle of the night. She glanced at the screen and her face changed. The calm she'd been holding slipped away, replaced by focus. "It's the beach line," she said. "Night patrol." She answered, listening, her eyes locked on mine. I could tell by the way her jaw tightened that it wasn't good. When she hung up, she was already reaching for her keys. "Surfer pulled near the rocks," she said. "They need help." "I'm coming," I said without thinking. She hesitated, just for a breath. Then she nodded. "Once we leave this house, we're back on the clock." I understood, still it stung. The beach at night is a different place. The wind cut colder, and the waves sounded angry, crashing hard against the rocks. Patrol lights flashed in the distance as we ran across the sand. Claire moved like instinct had taken over. This was her element. We reached the water and went straight in. The cold stole my breath, but my body knew what to do. We paddled hard, cutting through the dark swells. I could hear Claire behind me, her breathing steady, controlled. We reached the surfer just in time. Panic was written all over his face. We got him onto the board and turned away from the rocks, fighting the current inch by inch. My arms burned. My shoulders screamed. Then I heard Claire gasp. "You okay?" I shouted. "I'm fine," she snapped, but I could hear the pain in her voice, her knee, again. We pushed through anyway. When we finally reached shallow water, other guards rushed in and pulled the surfer to safety. The beach went quiet again, like nothing had happened. Claire stood a few steps away, trying not to lean on anything. Her face was pale. "Let me drive you home," I said. She wanted to argue, I could see it. Instead, she nodded. On the drive back, neither of us spoke. The ocean hummed in the dark, steady and patient. When we reached her porch, she paused, hand on the railing. "This," she said softly. "This is why I offered that bet." I waited, because you don't leave when it gets hard. The porch light glowed above us, and for the first time she didn't look like my boss. She looked like someone letting herself be seen. We didn't say much on the porch that night. Claire leaned against the railing for a moment, breathing through the pain in her knee, the ocean moving steady behind us. I stood close enough that she didn't have to ask for support. She didn't pull away. "This can't be careless," she said finally, her voice low. "You know that." "I do," I told her. "That's why I'm still here." She looked at me then, really looked at me like she was deciding whether to believe me. Then she nodded once. Not a promise, not a retreat either, something in between. After that, things shifted slowly. Not in big, dramatic ways. In small ones. Claire started texting in the mornings. Not about work. About the light on the water. About how the waves looked calm but felt wrong. Sometimes she'd just send a photo of the ocean from her porch, nothing else. We started meeting for coffee after early shifts, sitting outside, watching surfers wax their boards and kids chase gulls. We talked about childhood, about fear, about the parts of ourselves we didn't usually say out loud. I learned how much she hated feeling fragile. She learned how tired I was of always being the safe one. But the beach notices things. It started with looks, a pause when I walked into the locker room, a laugh that cut off too fast, then comments, quiet at first, then not so quiet. "Special training?" one of the guards joked, clapping my shoulder. I laughed it off, but it followed me. I saw how people watched Claire during briefings, how their eyes flicked to me and back again. I felt protective of her, and guilty too. She had worked for her respect. I didn't want to be the reason anyone questioned it, so I pulled back. Shorter replies, excuses after shift, less eye contact. I told myself it was temporary, that it was the right thing. One night my phone buzzed. "Walk tonight?" I stared at the message, my chest tight. Then I typed the lie. "Rain check, busy." The dots never appeared. A minute later, another message came through. "Lucas, tomorrow after shift, we talk." I sat there listening to the ocean outside my window, knowing I had just started something I couldn't outrun. The next day felt heavier than it should have. Same sand, same sky, same ocean. But my chest stayed tight like I was waiting for something to break. Claire barely looked at me during the morning briefing. Her voice was calm, professional. If anyone didn't know better, they would have thought nothing had changed. I noticed everything anyway. The way she held her clipboard a little too hard. The way her eyes found me when she thought I wasn't paying attention. After shift, I packed my gear slower than usual, hoping time might soften what was coming. It didn't. Claire was waiting near the path by the dunes, arms crossed, the sun low behind her. "Walk," she said. We went far enough that the parking lot noise faded. The ocean filled the space between us, loud and steady. She stopped and turned to face me. "Why did you pull away?" she asked. I didn't answer right away. The truth felt clumsy in my mouth. "Because people are talking," I said, "and because I don't want to be the reason anyone doubts you." Her jaw tightened. "So you decided to act like I was a mistake." "That's not what I meant," I said quickly. "I was scared." "Of what?" "Of losing my job. Of being the guy people think got special treatment. Of falling for you and watching it ruin everything." Her expression softened then, not in relief, but in understanding. "I've been scared too," she said. "I'm older. I'm your supervisor. I've built walls for a reason." "Then why did you make that bet?" I asked. She let out a breath that sounded like a laugh and a sigh at the same time. "Because you made me feel alive again. Because you didn't see me as the boss. You saw me as a person." I stepped closer. "I meant it when I said I wanted more." She searched my face. "Then don't disappear when it gets loud." "I won't," I said, and this time I knew I meant it. She nodded once, like that was enough. Then she leaned in and kissed me, slow and sure, the ocean roaring behind us like it approved. Doing it right turned out to be harder than either of us expected. Claire went to the city office the following week. She didn't tell me much beforehand, only that she needed to handle things cleanly. When she came back, her shoulders were squared, her expression calm in that familiar way. "They're moving you to a different section," she told me after shift. "I won't be signing off on your evaluations anymore." I stared at her. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did," she said. "I won't let anyone say you earned something you didn't, and I won't give them a reason to doubt me." The whispers faded after that. People always find something else to talk about. What didn't fade was us. We started meeting before sunrise, when the beach was quiet and the world felt unfinished. Sometimes we swam out to the buoy together, not racing, just moving side by side. When her knee hurt, she didn't pretend it didn't. When I felt unsure, I said so. We stopped hiding. A few months later, we started free swim lessons on Sunday mornings for kids whose families couldn't afford them. Claire taught them how to float, how to breathe, how to respect the water. I stayed close, steadying small hands when panic set in. Watching her with those kids showed me who she really was. One evening after a long day, we sat on her porch as the sun sank low. The sky turned soft shades of pink and orange. Wind chimes clicked gently. Claire rested her head on my shoulder. "I thought I wanted control," she said. "What I wanted was someone who wouldn't leave when it got messy." I reached into my pocket and pulled out a simple ring. Nothing flashy, just a small wave etched inside the band. "You offered me one night," I said, "but I meant it when I said I wanted more. I want the mornings, the hard days, the life." Her eyes filled and she laughed softly, like something heavy had finally been set down. "Yes," she said. "I want more too." Later, when we swam out to the buoy again, she bumped my shoulder and smiled. "I still owe you that reward." I held her hand as the waves lifted us gently. "You already gave it to me, and if this story stayed with you, linger a while. There's always another quiet truth waiting beyond the porch."